All right, well, welcome back to Black Swan Outdoors, and this is a continuation of our guerrilla radio communications. Now, you're probably wondering, why do we have this little pocket radio, and what does this have to do with guerrilla communications? Well, let me tell you. So, one of the ways in which a government wants to communicate with a covert agent working abroad, whether that be an intelligence officer or someone who's spying on behalf of a country, if they want to be able to communicate to those individuals, they jump on a shortwave radio and broadcast out to essentially to around the world as those radio frequencies will bounce off the ionosphere and reach places. So they can broadcast out from a safe distance to a coded with a coded message to anyone and everyone that has the ability to hear. Now, back in the day, pre-internet, one of the ways in which individuals got global news was through a shortwave radio. And so it was very common. Everyone had one of these. And so at a particular time, on a particular station, you would tune this in and listen into your coded message, then decode that message. Oftentimes it was done with a one-time pad. That message then was decoded, and then the message, the paper was then destroyed. And so if security services busted into your apartment looking to see if you were a spy, all they would catch is perhaps a transistor radio like this, a shortwave radio, and absolutely no evidence to know that you had received your messages. Now, this system works great because it protects the agent, and it also protects the host nation trying to send out the information. But it's what's called a one-way link, because the communication can only go one way. The agent in the field has a much harder time being able to communicate back to that government that they're reporting to. So how would they do that? Well, there was many different options. There was things like brush passes and dead drops that were done where you're interfacing with people. So if the message was to collect A, B, and C, that person would go out and collect it and then bring that material back and then go to a dead drop or do a brush pass or whatever it needed to do to pass that. Now, in the late 70s, the CIA used a pretty cool system, which was a texting system. Yes, they had texting capability. It was a little 1-watt receiver that had sent an encrypted text message. Now, that receiver couldn't go very far, so that was what was limiting about it, but that means that others can't, only within that vicinity, were going to be able to intercept that signal. So that's a safety procedure. But what that meant is that the individual, in order to get back information back to, say, Washington, D.C., to Langley, was then to be within a mile or two of an embassy, where they would send that text message to the embassy would receive it, decode it, and then type out a cable and send a secure cable back to Langley on that agent's behalf. And so that's how you would connect the loop with it. And there's many different ways to do that. So today, it's not as often used. There's other means, more efficient means through the internet to be able to communicate, but certainly radio communications can still play a role in organizing groups of people in a clandestine or a covert fashion. And so one way you can do that is through, instead of shortwave, use its relative, which is HF, or high frequency radio waves. And in that case, you just need a shortwave radio that's capable of single sideband, similar to this CountyCom GP5. This radio here is a small, compact radio, and it's specifically designed for this purpose. In fact, a lot of people know this. In fact, this is what's issued to individuals working out of an embassy that might need to know information that's going on, that might not be able to get that if all cell phone communications go down. So in an emergency procedure, if you're outside of the embassy and you want to get information, you tune to a specific frequency, and you'll be able to get an embassy. So if the embassy is evacuating, for example, you'll be able to get evacuation directives or information that's pertinent, all with HF radio transmission. So it's very low cost, very robust, an easy way to communicate with a broad amount of people. These receivers are, less than $100. I think it was $89 I paid for this. So instead of having to buy an HF radio, lugging around all the antenna and all the battery and all the capability for this, and then also having to understand how the HF radio works, and in places where you're operating back and forth, it requires a licensing. This requires no license, very little training, super lightweight, and very inexpensive. And so you're able to receive information through HF here. So that's one way to connect into your contact. The trick then is, how do we get the information back to the person who's sending out an HF radio? And if you want to do that covertly, then you're going to need this. And this is our covert communications box. And so essentially what it is just an external battery and 3 boards. And this is intentionally low budget design. It's designed to be discarded with low budget operation boards. So with this, the first board here is a LoRa board for mesh radio communications. I can send a radio communications encrypted to anybody that has these devices. So you can send a message to XYZ, totally encrypted, completing the loop to whomever needs to know. So if you had a regional representative in your area that you need to get information back from, say, a directive given over HF, you could reconnect potentially through a coded message or meet with somebody and be able to send messages back and forth without actually meeting in person. So you could be within, a mile or two or whatever the radio's distance is going to be, so that you're not connected if you're being surveilled, for example. Other board here is a Raspberry Pi W. So this is loaded with a Pirate Box software. Pirate Box software just creates a Wi-Fi broadcast network. So with this means with your cell phone you can send and receive data, pictures, whatever communique right to this board. And so as in the field, it can be used essentially as electronic dead drop, which is something that many operatives are using these days. So you could sit on a park bench, send and receive information, data, money, whatever, while this is hidden in a tree or on a fake rock, is what the Russians used, and many different applications for that. So this is not as secure. You'd have to know where it's at, a relative. You'd have to know, you'd have to know about its location and its existence. But again, it's another option. The last board here is what's called a deauthor. It's similar to spoofing. It actually just kind of, in a non-technical term, scrambles Wi-Fi connections so that you can knock out individuals' Wi-Fi capability. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, if you're doing covert operations and someone is doing electronic eavesdropping or with microphones or cameras that are Wi-Fi based, you could take those out with this. You could disrupt a cafe, airport terminal, whatever, anywhere you think there might be eavesdropping technology, you could do that so that you could send your message as well. There's many different applications and reasons why you might want to knock out Wi-Fi technology and others' communications capability. Say someone is trying to communicate, you can just plug this in, set this in a bush outside their house, and now they'll knock out their Wi-Fi. They will not be able to transmit or play on social media. The box then comes with an adapter for a cell phone, external antenna, and then you can throw on some magnets on the back where there's Velcro, so you can Velcro this to a box, kit, whatever, or you can throw the magnets on there and attach it to a car or anything obviously metallic so that you have a remote system. You'll be able, the box is clear, so you'll be able to read the messages on the LoRa board, so you'll be able to read whatever that message coming through. So if you don't have the capability with your phone to access this information, you can do it remotely by just looking at the box. So this is my covert communicator. Any comments, questions, suggestions to make it better, please let me know. Again, very, very inexpensive setup. You know, a $2 fishing tackle box. I'm not sure how much the battery bank was, maybe $8. We're talking $5 for this, $25 for the mesh, and then you know, $5 or something for this board. I can't remember, but very, very inexpensive. So essentially throwaway, which is the point. So if you can't retrieve it, you're not out of pocket. But you have many different tools, many different setups for your covert communications. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Please comment down below, and we'll have more guerrilla radio communications setups in the future.